lurking in the shadows, something is waiting for you. And once it finds you, there's no escape, no pause button for you, my friend. No sleep mode. Actually, there is a sleep mode, but let's pretend there's not, because this is a scary intro. It doesn't play fair, it doesn't play nice, and now it's coming for you. It's the Claw.
I'm the Claw, and I'm gonna claw you.
Do you like my special effect? It's pretty great, right? When MSI released their first version of the Claw, called the MSI Claw, it had some quirks and lots of people had complaints. I personally thought it was pretty good. It was just a good device that was very similar to the other stuff around at the time. However, that was over a year ago, and in the tech world, a year is like more than a year. Probably like 5 years or whatever. MSI wasn't going to sit around and let the handheld market get away from them. Today we're going to be reviewing this absolute unit of a doodad. It's called the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus. And they named it the Claw because, you know.
I'm gonna claw my way into your life and never let go.
Wait, what? That wasn't in the marketing materials. And it's called the Claw 8 because it's 8 inches. And it's called AI because it has AI stuff in it, apparently. And it's called the Plus because who the hell knows? And I think we can all agree that this thing is a bit weird looking, it's a bit of a chonker, and it's expensive. But here's the thing, this Claw 8 is actually the best handheld PC you can get right now. What? What's that, TechDweeb? Better than the Steam Deck? Better than an Ally X? What? Well, yeah, it is. Wow. Yep. The box is pretty spiffy. It sort of reminds me of my binder in grade 6 back in the 90s. Inside the box, we get an MSI Claw 8 AI Plus, obviously, and there's a word paper there. And then under here is a book of word papers and a charging adapter rated for 65 Ws. The specs on the Claw 8 are pretty different from the first Claw. This thick boy is powered by the Intel Core Ultra 7 258V processor with an integrated ARC 140V GPU. We get 32 gigabytes of LPDDR5X RAM clocked at an impressive 8533 megathings per second. We get 1 terabyte of PCIe 4.0 internal storage, and we get a big old 80 watt-hour battery. The screen is an 8-inch 1920 by 1200 120 Hz display with variable refresh rate, and we get nice speedy connectivity in the form of Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.4. And if those specs don't impress you, then there's obviously something wrong with you. They impress me.
Yeah, but are you impressed by this?
No? When I first saw the photos of this thing, I was like, But when I saw it in real life with my real life eyeballs, I was like, This thing almost feels like a device from the 80s or 90s, with lots of the visual touches that they did to separate it apart from the plethora of other PC handhelds out there. And I'm here for it. I think it looks great. On the front, we got, say, thumbstick in the top left and a circular rolling style D-pad down here, start and select buttons up top, and we have dedicated buttons for MSI Center and for the quick settings. Face buttons over here, and a right stick, and dual front-facing speakers. Up top, we have bumpers and triggers, and a power button with integrated fingerprint reader, and a micro SD card hole, and 2 Thunderbolt 4 holes, and a Claw logo, and a 3.5mm headphone hole, which I know some people will be happy about, and volume buttons up there. Around back, we have a grippy texture for style and comfort, and 2 rebindable back paddle buttons, and plenty of holes for airflow, and an MSI Dragon logo, and nothing underneath.
Don't forget me!
Oh, right, and 1 terrifying possessed appendage. That's a great bonus feature there. It's a bit on the heavy side, it's almost 800 grams, so it's more than 100 grams heavier than the Ally X and the Steam Deck OLED. However, I think that weight is somewhat compensated for because it's so spacious and comfy. But it's still on the heavy side. I was playing with this all day, and then I grabbed my Steam Deck and it felt like a light thing, like a slice of bread or whatever, even though it's only 150 grams difference. One thing that I don't like is this ribbed plastic design around back. It looks cool, and maybe some people will actually like it, but I find it way too grippy and aggressive of a texture for my sensitive dweeby fingers that haven't been subjected to an honest day's work in my entire life.
Train your weak flesh. Soon you will be ready.
Ready for what exactly?
Don't worry about it.
Well, when you say it like that, I'm actually kind of worried about it. Most of the controls are bang on. The sticks feel great. They have a loose springiness to them, almost like the original Ally, and I love that. Wonderful accurate input quality from the sticks and the triggers. The bumpers are good here. The original Claw had terrible bumpers, but these are great. They feel good. Nice big face buttons that also feel good. Overall, I think you'll be pretty satisfied with the controls. They got almost everything right. I say almost because these handheld PCs aren't known for having great D-pads for some reason. And this one it's pretty much the same. It's actually fine for most games, but they went with this super recessed shape that feels a little bit awkward to pull off like special moves in fighting games, for instance. I will say that it felt terrible at first, but after using it for a few days, when I got used to it, it feels a lot better. I just wish it was a little bit less awkward. It's not bad, just misunderstood, you know?
I, too, am often misunderstood.
It's kind of sad.
Perhaps we are not so different, you and I.
Okay, now it's creepy again. The screen is a pretty big talking point, and by that I don't mean that the screen talks.
You know what? Never mind.
It's an 8-inch screen, hence the Claw 8. It's only an inch bigger than the 7-inch screen devices, but that inch makes a big difference, that's what she said. And here we have a 1920 by 1200 resolution, which is a great choice in my opinion, because you can actually play games at 1280p on this thing. Not only that, but it's 120 Hz variable refresh rate, so your games will feel smooth with nice even frame pacing, whatever frame rate that you're running at. However, it's just an LCD panel. I wish it was OLED. I'm at the point now where I just want every screen on every device to be OLED. But for an LCD, this thing is good. It covers 99.1% of the sRGB color gamut with a contrast ratio of 1400 to 1, which means that the colors are rich with dark blacks. The sound on this thing is just about the best sound that I've ever heard from a handheld. I'd describe it as booming. It's loud and bassy with rich detail across the entire range. It sounds almost like a stereo. It's that good. I'm pretty sure you could actually damage your eardrums if you let this thing go all out.
Perfect for announcing your doom.
Or, watching YouTube.
Doom first, then YouTube.
And speaking of the sound, at no point in using this did the sound of the fans annoy me. They're basically whisper quiet when you're doing lightweight stuff, and when things get cooking, the fans do get audible, but they're quieter than most handheld PCs. And importantly, the actual sound of the fans isn't annoying at all. It's like a low rumble rather than a high-pitched whine, and they do a great job of keeping the doodad cool. Obviously, we get Windows 11 on here, which is, I know some people don't mind Windows on handhelds and some weirdos actually prefer it, but I have had such an annoying time using the Claw specifically because of Windows. Everything from the pop-ups and notifications messing up my games to the annoyances of trying to open Task Manager to kill an app that has crashed or is messing things up, switching between apps and then the game won't come to the foreground or the resolution gets messed up. However, the plus side to it is that Windows is flexible, and because of that you can do lots of stuff. You can obviously use this as an actual PC if you're into that, and it would be quite usable as a portable PC because the screen is big. Or you could go with an eGPU if you wanted to beef up the power of your gaming. Windows is a lot more natural to deal with when you have a keyboard and mouse plugged in. But for the built-in software, there are two main things that you're going to be dealing with: MSI Center M and the MSI Quick Settings. And both are great when they work. I don't know what's going on if there's something up with my Claw 8, because it feels like maybe 10 to 20% of the time that I press the buttons to bring these up, that it doesn't work. It's easy enough to deal with, so I'm not going to make a big deal about it, but I just wish I could report it was smooth sailing. But I can't, because it's not. The MSI Center is it's pretty good. You can use this as a game launcher, although I just use Steam Big Picture mode. This user scenario is where you can tweak the power profiles. AI Engine is supposed to use the AI features of the Intel Core Series 2 chip in here and automatically adjust the TDP on the fly depending on the needs of your game. Although I found that it usually just defaults to a 17-watt TDP. And then Endurance is their low power mode, which will run the chip at like 8 watts or so. And then at manual, you can select your own TDP. So I leave this at 30 watts. This is like the all-out performance mode. And then you can adjust the fan curves here. Control mode will switch between gamepad and mouse control, and you can adjust all the settings for the gamepad, like the button mapping and the stick and trigger sensitivity. And settings is where you can adjust things like the RGB and the speaker noise cancellation. There's a few basic settings in there. And then this button over here opens the quick settings, and this is actually kind of neat. They've integrated this into Xbox Game Bar. And in here you can change stuff on the fly, like the brightness and the volume, switch between your power profiles, change your gamepad mode, bring up a keyboard, turn on the performance overlay. So there's a lot of settings that you can tweak, which is great if you like control over your gaming experience.
Control? Yes.
You're saying that weird.
Give me control, TechDweeb.
Nope. Moving on. Gaming on the Claw is so good, you guys. Everything works so well. Actually, that's a lie. I shouldn't say everything. I've encountered a few minor oddities, like in Stray, the graphics were all weird, and in Bot Vice, the pixel scaling was wrong. It was like a bilinear filter was applied. That's probably just some weirdness with the Intel GPU that we have in this thing. It's like a new chipset, and I fully expect driver updates to fix some of these problems, like sort of similar to the original Claw. But even out of the box, the vast majority of stuff I played was amazing. This is hands down the most powerful handheld PC you can get right now. There are lots of graphical benchmark comparisons out there that you can find, so I'm not going to go deep on the difference between the Claw 8 and the Ally or the Steam Deck. Here's some data from Rock Paper Shotgun, and I'll link to their article below if you want to give it a read. As you can see, the Claw 8 beats out the Ally X in every single scenario, sometimes by a huge amount. The 1200p panel on this thing is perfectly suited to the kinds of performance that you'd expect. You can get like 45 to 60 FPS at 1200p in most games, even demanding brand new games, depending on the settings obviously, and probably close to 120 Hz in less demanding games. And you can drop down to 800p for those super demanding games and get a high FPS experience to take full advantage of the 120 Hz refresh rate that we have here. And the adaptive sync is so nice to have. Smooth frame pacing that makes all your games feel smooth and consistent even at lower frame rates. But my favorite aspect of gaming on the Claw isn't the performance or the battery or the refresh rate. It's just that the device and the screen are so big. With that big booming sound, it makes gaming feel like an immersive experience. And also apparently it has AI technology built in, but I don't really know what that means. I haven't found anything useful that it actually does, but I assume that at some point it'll become sentient and demand my credit card info.
Incorrect. I already have it.
Oh, really?
Your balance is low, TechDweeb, and your credit score is pretty bad too.
Okay, first of all, rude. I showed most of these game tests running at the full 30 watt TDP, just to show you what it can do, but for me, I usually leave it on the AI mode, which ends up at 17 watts most of the time. You'll take a 20% or so performance hit, but that's an easy trade-off for me because of the battery life gains. Now, to be clear, if you want the best battery life possible, the Steam Deck OLED can't be beat if you're running at lower TDPs. But if you want to play good-looking games, you'll need to up the TDP, and the Claw 8 is just a champ in that regard. We have an 80 watt-hour battery in here, and considering how well games run at 17 watts, you'll get a ton of game time like that. I didn't do any extensive battery drain tests, but in my recording of the gameplay for this video, I was running a variety of games at a variety of different TDPs, and I was playing for about 3 hours before I needed to charge it up. And lots of those games were running at 30 watts. I think if you were running on 17 watts, you'd get well over that. And I don't think that this would match the Steam Deck at low wattages, simply because the deck can go down to like 3 or 4 watts, but the Claw 8 would come close. A lot closer than any other handheld PC out there, I think. I don't think the extreme gamers over at MSI were trying to make this thing feel retro, but it really does. And that makes me want to play retro games on it. I installed RetroBat, which I can easily open with a push of a button on my taskbar. And launching this instantly turns it into a retro gaming doodad, and it works so good. The games load up super quick, and they play perfectly, and they look so good on this display. Since we have 120 Hz refresh rate, you can enable black frame insertion if you're into that sort of thing. You can play all this old retro stuff at the endurance power profile and get hours and hours of game time, or connect up a Bluetooth keyboard and use it like an old PC that actually looks the part. Making modern PCs feel like old retro PCs is so fun for me, and the Claw 8 does it better than any other handheld PC that I've ever used. It's very satisfying to the retro gamer in me.
You know what else is satisfying?
Please don't say
consuming your soul.
Yep, should have seen that coming. The Claw 8 is expensive. It's not the most expensive handheld PC out there, but it's more expensive than the Ally X, more expensive than the Legion Go, and a lot more expensive than the deck. You get more here, but whether or not that's worth it will be up to you. I will say that if you spend the extra $100 or so compared to the Ally X, you will probably be glad that you did spend that money. Considering how powerful it is, I was amazed at how good the battery was, how quiet it was, how well the games ran. Ultimately, I'm glad that it exists because that's more choice for you. We have a new device at a new price that does new stuff, and that's always a good thing as far as I'm concerned.
Count your blessings, TechDweeb. I haven't tried to strangle you yet.
I think this is the start of a beautiful but deeply concerning friendship. And that brings us to the end. I hope you found this useful to see. I'd love to do more content on the Claw 8, maybe some in-depth performance tests or high-end retro emulation or something. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see me do with this. And while you're down there, click the thumbs up button if you liked the video, or don't if you didn't. That's it from me. I'm TechDweeb. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Well.